Welcome back. We're back. Two fans, one Paul. Myself, David Quist, lovely co-host KB Kirk Brown. Week 11 preview. We're both on bye weeks. The rankings just came out a little bit ago for the college football playoff. We'll start with that in a moment, and we'll break down some games going into the weekend. Kind of a lighter slate, KB, in my opinion, but hey, we're still here. We're still going to grind some football as we continue through this YouTube, TV, ESPN thing. It's fucking incredibly terrible. Hopefully somebody can get a grip. Supposedly, I saw Disney is losing $5 million a day, so if that's true, that's a bummer. But a lot of crazy trades today in the NFL. The Lions didn't do much, so lots to talk about in the life of sports. But we'll throw it to KB, and then we'll jump into the rankings.
Yeah, really excited doing this podcast a little early. I don't know if Quist plans on releasing it early, but I'm back in Michigan this week, so maybe we'll do an early release because we're doing a Tuesday, and let us know if you guys prefer that, because maybe we change the schedule up. It's all up to your guys' needs, but excited to talk about this week. You said it best, Quist. A little bit lighter week, and it's especially less fun when we're already on the second bye week for our teams of the season. The season has rolled on by, it feels like, as we're in the last 3 games of the season for both of us. But overall, really excited with the rest of the season. And, we also have the rankings got released as the first college football playoff, so we can see where the bias is and where everything kind of lies as is. So, Quist, if you want to kick us off, maybe a surprise ranking, or do you just want to go through the list?
Surprise. I guess Oregon being at 9. A little surprising there. You got Bama, Georgia, Ole Miss, and A&M. Obviously, A&M's undefeated, but yeah, maybe a little bit low there. They could move up. I would even see BYU being up. I guess for me, I rank being undefeated, kind of like the BCS did, a little bit more. I hope they use the computers a little bit, KB, because I think a combination of the old BCS computer would be nice to have. Virginia 14, that's a weird one. Louisville 15, one-loss teams that are kind of hanging out. But no, I think it makes sense. I think Michigan State, 3-4 years ago, was in the top 4. These rankings don't matter, but it's fun to talk about like we are right now, and cool to see Indiana at 2. I mean, we've talked about it over and over, the worst program probably in the history of college football, so it's just cool to see them, rise to the top. Deservingly so. I think they probably win out the rest of their year, but obviously, KB, we've seen teams fall out of this, but I think it's cool to see Indiana there, and maybe Oregon can climb back up after a tough loss at home to Indiana.
I mean, yeah, you said it really well. These rankings don't mean much. The number 1 overall team that was ranked first, this is always kind of a fun fact, was Mississippi State in the first college football playoff. I believe that was the year they upset Alabama. They were the first number 1 in the playoff era, and I don't think they've even come close to making a playoff. I believe it was with Dak, yeah. So just the fun fact there, yeah. I mean, it's the thing that I'll say is it's interesting that the top 1-loss, 2-loss, and 3-loss team are all SEC teams. I think we kind of expect that, but Tennessee slipping in the top 25. They don't have a win against a ranked team, which I feel like one of the qualities is that you can't just lose close. They also have an overtime game against Mississippi State. They played a close game, I believe, to one other team that isn't doing very well. So it's just an interesting tidbit there. I see Iowa jumping in. They're not a team that's ranked in the top 25 of the coaches and media poll, but they're ranked 20th ahead of Michigan, which I find pretty interesting. Michigan is 21 this week.
That'd be a disgusting game, by the way.
That offensive performance, but it also makes sense, right? Because Oregon's going on the road, they now get a ranked win to elevate them. Yeah, I also agree. Oregon being that low with a pretty close loss at home to the number 2 team in the country, and then Notre Dame, they just get to be 6-2, right? Because we don't look at quality wins. If you just don't have any bad losses, it's kind of even better than having quality wins, unless you're Alabama, where a horrible loss just doesn't get counted in your resume at all. But the way that goes, and I believe it was Kirk Herbstreit or Joel Klatt said it best, is that because you kind of group things in tiers, where it'd be like, it probably looked at the 3 undefeated teams, OSU, IU, and A&M, and then kind of organized them, and then they were like, all right, 1-loss teams at the top end, and they were like Alabama, Georgia, and maybe Ole Miss. All right, well, Alabama beat Georgia. Georgia beat Ole Miss, correct? I'm not mistaken.
Georgia beat Ole Miss 43-35.
Yeah, Georgia beat Ole Miss. So, that's literally the rankings. Is literally, you can kind of see the rankings a little bit clearer when you see that they're ranking things in groups rather than anything else. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that Texas Tech, with a bad loss to an injured ASU team, is considered a better loss than what Oregon has. But Oregon doesn't have a big win on the season. But again, neither does Notre Dame. So I don't know like how the metrics get pulled across, but it's a very positive note for the SEC, and I'm not shitting on them here, that all of their teams, like the one loss teams go three straight SEC, the two loss teams go two straight SEC, and then the only three loss team in the country that's ranked is Tennessee. So there's obviously huge factors of strength and schedule, and all that reciprocates against itself. Because if you're only playing against highly ranked, highly touted teams, the losses count less and the wins cost more. So it is really beneficial, and they have some of the best teams in the country. I'm not disputing that. It's just you can see those blocks and how they rank these teams, and that influences kind of what we see. But at the end of the day, it's who you win at the end of the season. Basically, every team with two losses, the whole entire world's in their hand. Out in the Power Four, if you win out, you're in. We'll see how this all plays out every year. I feel like when we see the first ranking, we all freak out. Like, this is dumb, this is stupid, what the hell, what the hell? And we got to remember that, first off, college football is a media company now. How much they actually care. These rankings don't matter, and they say every week we can completely flip the rankings, and it doesn't really matter. So that's just something I want to keep everyone's mind around on when you see some of these rankings, and it's usually just football impact. But outside of that, nothing crazy here. Like I said, I was the most shocking one because they're not in the coaches poll at all, and they're 20th here. And they have two not great losses, but they've been playing good football the last couple weeks, so that can really influence these types of things, like you said, Chris, with recency bias.
Yeah, would love to see Virginia sneak in, another team that's kind of been mediocre for a while. Besides that, I mean, Texas Tech has that oil money, and obviously we've talked about Indiana enough. But yeah, a team like Louisville, Virginia, Brahm does a pretty good job at Louisville. They have one loss. What's his name? Moss from USC's there. He's kind of a forgotten name.
Miller Moss.
Miller Moss is there.
And remember, Chris, it's Louisville. You don't pronounce
Sorry,
Louisville.
I've been there, so I should know better, right?
You got a loogie in the back of your mouth.
Louisville.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
Louisville.
Those teams would be fun to see. I wonder if anybody else sneaks up. I don't know if there's any other two-loss teams that could sneak in here, but always fun to talk about and see. But obviously, this is a drama series where they're just dramatizing everything, and we'll drop the rankings the next 4 or 5 weeks. It won't matter until Thanksgiving weekend when things get slated. That's when it matters.
Thanksgiving weekend, and that's when it matters. But again, right, if everything is based off of top 25 wins and how you're viewing it, then these rankings do matter at times too, because if they're basing it off of their own metrics, and it kind of feeds into itself, like I said. But excited to talk about the games this week. We do still have some top games. Quist, give me the first one. Kickoff, I believe, is BYU at Texas Tech. No?
Friday night, we got Tulane, Memphis, 9 o'clock.
Tulane, Memphis. Yes.
And so that's another fun group of 5 game that has implications once again in the American Conference. The American is kind of that just, I would say 1B, B tier after the Power 4. Pretty decent conference, but Tulane just had a bad loss at UTSA, goes to Memphis. Memphis has a good win against USF. Memphis is home, and they are 5.5 point favorites. Can't speak. And a fun uniform game, helmet game. Kind of curious what Tulane comes out with because both teams have pretty good helmets. Retzlaff has been good for Tulane. I like that coach. Wouldn't be surprised, KB, if he gets poached and goes somewhere, maybe like Auburn or something, or Florida. Maybe Florida wants a bigger name. But just keep an eye on the Tulane coach as we get closer to the end of the season because I do think he could go somewhere else. Maybe it's the same for Memphis, but it seems like Memphis always has a decent team. We talked about them earlier this year when they played USF. Their quarterback, his two-time transfer, does a pretty good job. In this stadium, you can get pretty going. The Liberty Bowl does fill up, and people get pretty rowdy there. Friday night game on campus. I'm going to go with Memphis, KB, just knowing they probably have things rolling. Tulane coming off a tough loss at UTSA, the Roadrunners. And after a pretty bad loss to UAB for Memphis, they beat USF by 3, and then last week they beat Rice 38-14. After this game, they have East Carolina and Navy, so they probably could finish the season 11-1 with a win with this game. Impressive.
Yeah, this is a really big game, and something important to note at the rankings that I didn't see initially is there is no Group of 5 team listed in these rankings.
Right.
Is this a statement about how the NCAA feels about the difference between the group of four and maybe a succession? We've talked about it before on this program, so I just wanted to make a note
Please
of that.
no.
Yeah, this line moved from -6.5 to 5.5. Tulane has a lot of fire power. They have the BYU transfer as their QB, like we talked about, that had obviously gotten into off-season trouble of just being a
He was
college
just being a
kid and
college
sleeping
kid.
with a woman.
BYU's
Uh,
insane.
it's not a cult, but it does a lot of weird things. I'll say that. But Tulane at Memphis here. I'm going to take Memphis in this game. I like them at home. I think they just had they had a huge win, and when you have a huge win, I think it can build momentum at times. And I think 3 weeks ago, before they played UAB had a walk-on weird quarterback, and they were up in that game, and it's just one of those weird things. And I think it's just when you stub your toe, you can do that sometimes in the American. So I'm going to take Memphis in this game. I really like the way that they play, and Tulane's defense has been pretty poor all season.
Yeah, I just want to look at the American right now, KB. So right now, top of the conference, we have Navy, Memphis, and North Texas. Jesus, a bunch of 3-1 teams, and you have 6 teams with one loss. So lots should be happening the last few weeks here, KB, because we have Navy, Memphis, North Texas, Tulane, USF, and East Carolina, all only with one loss. And I'm assuming for the conference championship game, it's just the top two teams. Not sure what the tiebreakers are. Maybe it's points against whatever that is, or however they do that. But the American's going to be decided here the last few weeks, and it could be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this is the conference to look at, right? Because this is most likely where the group of five team is going to come from. The Mountain West is not nearly as strong. Boise State has certainly struggled. So it's going to come down to who can kind of win these weird games. And, we also might see some teams get held out that have a better overall record, because you got to remember, Navy, they play Notre Dame, which doesn't count as a in conference game, so they might have an extra loss, and maybe that's what it comes down to, straight win loss. But we'll see. So overall, pretty interesting here. What can turn out.
And then to your thought, we need a group of five in the playoff the way it's written right now, right?
I certainly believe that's still the way that it is. It's four conference. It's four conference winners are guaranteed.
Yeah.
The ranking isn't solidified like last year, which I'm a huge fan of, because then you get like Boise State getting a bye, even though they probably shouldn't have been a top four team, because of the conference winners things. So you can kind of just rank the rankings, and then I believe that it's the highest ranked group of five team. I still believe that's how it is. Next podcast, we'll come back to confirm it. We'll do some more research. But yeah, I believe so.
Got it. Okay, good to know. I didn't even notice that, so I'm glad you brought that up. But we'll jump to the next game, KB. You kind of already said it. Big noon kickoff, 10 or 11 o'clock local kick. BYU at Texas Tech. Another fun Big 12 game, KB. We talked about that last time. The spread is currently 10.5 in favor of Texas Tech in Lubbock. I'd love to hear your thoughts first, KB. I think BYU is getting a little shafted here, if I'm being honest, so far.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, if you look at the way some of the ways that BYU has won games, they haven't really dominated a lot of teams. I mean, they've come out on the positive end, and they certainly beat the brakes off of Iowa State. But remember, you got to remember how beat up that team was. They barely escaped Utah. It was a close double overtime win against Arizona. They had a 14-point win against West Virginia. They played Colorado and won by 3. Colorado's been outscored by like 104 to like 17 the last couple weeks. So they haven't necessarily looked like the most dominant team. Now the counterpoint on that is Texas Tech struggled, lost the game, but with a backup quarterback at Arizona State. He had a great game, remember, in Utah subbing in, but I talked about the fact that sometimes when you're the dude and you have all the responsibilities, all the weight, and your coach is expecting you to fully run an offense, that's a different expectation than, being a relief pitcher. There's starters and there's relievers. And starters, the team knows what you're going to throw. They can anticipate it, and you're just better, and that's why you're a starter. And relief pitchers, they come in and kind of throw the weird pitches. They might have a few strengths, and you just play to that because they're only out there for a limited amount of time. So that's sometimes what happens when these young QBs get thrusted into the spotlight for just game where they don't have to have the full weight on their shoulders versus opposite of you having to fully prep for a game, it can be a vastly different experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to take into account. But Byron Morin has played a good game. I like this Texas Tech rushing attack, and I think I'm going to take Texas Tech here. BYU gets away from home where they played so much good football. They have a huge home field advantage. Beautiful stadium, obviously, all things considered. But I'm taking Texas Tech. I think this is one of those games, and I don't think that this necessarily knocks BYU out. A road loss to a top 10 team. I believe it's going to be close, and then I think the Texas Tech is going to pour it on in the fourth. By a couple mistakes by a young, remember their QB is still a true freshman. He's going into a tough road environment. I hate the fact that we can't throw tortillas. It's absolute
They're not doing that
travesty
anymore
on this country. I believe it was the Big
It's in the
12
game.
commissioner, Big 12 commissioner, or the AD spoke about it, I believe 2 weeks ago, and said we will not be throwing them.
That's a travesty. It's
That's
like
what I
what they
said.
do. It's a weird tradition. Don't get me wrong, KB, but hey, if it's in the football game, like literally, I can see it when I play at Texas Tech, which I did in our dynasty. It should be in real life. It's the kickoff. Pick them up. No big deal. But I like your take here, KB, and I'm looking at BYU's schedule for the rest of the year. You know, they have TCU at Cincy and USF. Not too bad. Cincy maybe a little bit of a fraud. But BYU, maybe they have a tough loss here, and then they kind of fall apart. We'll see, because they could still be really in contention and be 11-1. But I would agree with kind of all the points you're saying, KB. This Texas Tech team is kind of loaded. They really have one of the top, I think, 3 most expensive teams in the country. So it makes sense why they should be here. I do like their quarterback. Their running game is pretty impressive. I wish I knew more about this defense. I'm looking right now. They have looking at sack leaders. They have a guy with 11.5 sacks, Bailey. Not sure where he's from. And then their leading tackler has 20 more tacklers than BYU's, Rodriguez. So I think this Texas Tech defense does fly around. I just haven't watched them enough. But knowing the money that they've spent in the record, obviously they're pretty decent. And obviously, when you think of Texas Tech KB, you think of that air raid. They're going to sling it around. The quarterbacks are always good in this, type of offense. I know it's probably different now, but they do a good job in their scheming. And they have had a decent run game recently too, which is cool. Like you said, Bear Bachmeier has done a good job for being a freshman, wearing a goofy number quarterback. He gets the job done. But if Texas Tech can get that pressure on him with Bailey, like I just said, I think that makes a difference. I do think BYU has a decent running game. He has more yards than Texas Tech leading rushers. So I'd like to see how that goes. I just think Texas Tech is too much. I think BYU can hang around, like you said, KB, but maybe a late touchdown makes it a 10-point game. And maybe the cover's like an iffy one. 10.5 is that hook. So maybe BYU gets that cover at 10 points, but I think Texas Tech gets the win.
Yeah, and 2 things to bring up here. Bailey is a Stanford transfer. He had 7 sacks last year with Stanford. And then Rodriguez, he has 7 forced fumbles on the season. He has perfected the peanut punch. He is so good. So watch out for him. If you haven't watched much Texas Tech, their linebacker Rodriguez, thank you for bringing him up, Quiz. He's so good at punching out the football. He gets them. He gets the, behind the, when you wrap around, and he also gets the one where the dude's like falling, and, there's just an inch of separation. He comes right on top and punches it out. He's really, really good at it. So that's definitely a highlight in that game. So, yeah, I just really like this Texas Tech team, and they say you can't buy the best team, and it's like, why not? It works for basically every sport in the world. The teams that spend the most usually win the most. Ask the Dodgers. So... Chris, what game are we going to next? We have 2 kickoffs at the same exact time. Up to you. Are we heading further out west, or are we bringing a little closer back to the Midwest?
Let's end with the Big Ten. Let's go Texas A&M, Mizzou. I think this is a fun matchup. A&M is favored. Home dogs for Mizzou here, 6.5. Prabula obviously out, but Zollers, he's looked decent. I've only seen a little bit in relief. We can go kind of back and forth here. I do like Reed. He's very athletic. He's been up and down. This A&M defense is pretty good. I think this A&M team is really athletic. But when I think of Missouri, KB, I don't know why. It's more of a blue-collar, get-the-job-done kind of team. The running back Hardy's pretty damn good. Transferred from Louisiana Lafayette, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to look right now. But I think this could be a fun game. I think Missouri can kind of slow them down. I can't see where he came from, but I know he transferred.
I'll let you know 1 second.
Yeah, I can see Mizzou keeping this close. The over-under is only 48.5, which I'm a little surprised by because A&M, their offense kind of puts up points. But I'm going to lean Mizzou here just to cover, KB. I like their team. I like a freshman quarterback stepping up. Really lean on this run game. I think I like their coach, Drinkowitz. He's fiery, he gets the guys going. It's in Mizzou, which seems to be a weird place to play sometimes. And I know their stadium's kind of under construction, but I think this is a fun SEC game. Throwback Big 12, I believe, way back when. But I just think Mizzou's got a little bit something to them right now. Maybe they want to hang around in the SEC and maybe make it to the playoff. But I just want to have fun with this pick, KB. I know I'm probably wrong here, but I think Mizzou can cover. Love to see a big performance from their freshman quarterback and really lean on that run game with Hardy.
Well, not that long ago, both these teams were the teams that transitioned from the Big 12 to the SEC, right? There's some history here between these two. He was at University of Louisiana Monroe, Chris, just to let you know. And there's actually an interesting story developing because he's played 4 SEC games. One of them was against South Carolina. He had a pretty impressive performance, 138 yards. But in his last 3, 52 yards, 58, 97, averaging less than 5 yards a carry. He's at almost 1,000 for the season, but a lot of that was gained in the offseason. He had 250 versus University of Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns. He had 100 against God knows who, FCS, and then Kansas for 112. He also had 130 against UMass. So he hasn't necessarily played his best ball at the best times. In this Texas A&M front, they force a bunch of 3rd and longs. That's not the situation you want to be in. You're going to be putting a freshman quarterback in a bunch of where you have absolute dogs on the edges that are going to terrorize you the entire game. I think this is another game where we always talk about, right? It was Texas A&M at one point. This is a game that they consistently lost. They're riding high, they're at 3, and then somehow they lose 3 straight games, they miss the playoff, right? That's the story. That's the story on who this team has been. And I think that they change that narrative here. I think they go in and they don't play their best ball. I don't think you're going to get the world, renowned offensive performance by Marcel Reed like we're accustomed to. But I think Cassius Howell and this defensive line is going to do enough to disrupt this team where it's going to be like a 14-7 game, 17-7. And I'm taking A&M here just due to the fact that A&M is the best 3rd down and long defense in the country by a mile. I sent my good buddy Jeff a little chart about it. And everyone else is kind of like, on the curve, you can see where they're at, it's following the trend line, and they're like in Uzbekistan, basically, where they're so far ahead of the competition in stop rate. I think they were stopping 90% of 3rd down and longs, and they get there at like a 65% clip. It's incredible how good they are in 3rd and long, and I just think that they're going to be in a bunch of those because they're going to load up to stop the run early, and then Missouri's going to try to drop back, right? They're going to try to protect the freshman kid and not get him killed, and it's going to play directly into A&M's hand. I think this is going to be a poor offensive performance, but a tremendous defensive performance from A&M that pulls them through a game after they've been riding high. So give me A&M to cover.
Yeah, and then obviously they could. Sorry, my lights messed it up. I think A&M could go into the Texas game 11-0. They have South Carolina and then Samford before that game. Another thing, I was just thinking, and the light messed me up. I lost my train of thought. Bummer. It happens, KB. The light just fucked me. So what about this A&M team? That's not a big deal. But yeah, this is a game that they lose for sure, like you said. And I'm curious to see how they finish up the season. I think Elko's kind of got the sauce and the juice, but you never know. Young quarterback. But I would love. Both quarterbacks are young. Really curious to see how this Mizzou team steps up. Oh, and my thought, KB, was I can't probably watch this game because it's on ABC unless they figure it out. So this is a game that I would love to watch if I possibly could. The other games we talked about are on ESPN and ABC. So every game so far, KB, I can't watch.
Well, maybe Quist, you swing by my parents' house on Saturday.
Yeah, right.
We'll see if I can't see it Friday, and we'll be able to check in on some games for a little while.
That's insane. So. Hopefully they figure it out by Saturday because they're going to start burning through money. Anyway, segue. Let's go to the last game, KB, at the good old Big Ten, our home conference. Oregon Ducks going to the Midwest to Iowa. 9 versus 20. Iowa's home dog 6.5. I think Oregon's too much, KB. I know this Iowa team is, they're always going to play. We always talk about Iowa. They're going to play the same defense. They're going to play stingy. They're going to have some white quarterbacks that are pretty good that can lock down people. They're going to try to run the ball because their quarterback's mediocre at throwing, and they're going to have a low-scoring game. I just think Dante Moore is too much. I like this Oregon team. They had a bunch of athletes on offense to carry in more. Freshman receiver, really good. Running back by committee. Dan Lanning gets the guys going. Give me the Ducks all the way. I haven't used a lot of noise, but I'm gonna get the quack going as well. Quack quack, baby. Quick breakdown for me.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't disagree with you more here. I mean, this is where teams go to die. This is where ranked teams that all of the momentum of the season, they did it to Michigan, they did it to Ohio State. I can go on and on who just goes here with expectation and dies. And we saw a team go in there and barely escape. If one or two plays go different, Indiana barely escaped from this team, 20-15, right? And that's a team that beat them. You just go here. It's a weird atmosphere. They get it hype, and then they just play out of their minds. Like Gronowski, just figures out a way, I think, to make it close. I wouldn't bet this to win, but I just think this is one of those games where Oregon is just their buttholes puckered the entire time. Dante Moore, remember, left the game 2 weeks ago injured. He said it wasn't anything big, but you left the game in an absolute downpour and played a close game against Wisconsin. Obviously, that weather was hugely impactful to that game. But they can have an off night. And I know that they had a bye to kind of rev up and get the engines going before this game. But Iowa's just a weird place to play, man. And I'm not saying that it's always like the world ender, but you go there as a ranked team, and I don't know what the dude who never wants to throw a forward pass says to the team. Whatever he says, though, gets the team going. He just knows what to say to get this team locked in for a big moment, and I think this game's uncomfortably close for Oregon. I think that they probably pull it out, but it's going to be weird, man. It's weird. Weird is written all over this game.
Is Oregon wearing their Grateful Dead jerseys?
No, they wore those.
They wore that at Wisconsin. Okay,
Wisconsin. Yeah, it was a Wisconsin.
That's pretty dope.
Game.
Pretty dope. I'm not a Grateful Dead guy, but that's cool. Yeah, KB, that's a true fact. I mean, I remember, I don't know how old I was, but they did a thing about the bathrooms at Iowa for the visiting team. They're all pink. But yeah, Kinnick is a weird place to play. Shout out to the Wave. That's always cool after the first quarter. That's a good thing to see and do. Both teams always do that, so that's cool. But yeah, I would love to watch this game be locked in. This is a 3:30 kick on CBS, so I can watch this one, no problem, if I'm at my house. Big Ten knows what they're doing, kinda. CBS is still weird.
And this is something to consider. They played a 2015 game against IU. They blew out Wisconsin 37-0. They played Penn State equally as close, 25-24, and they blew out Minnesota. And the fun fact is Gronowski has one passing touchdown against Power 5 opponents 8 games into the season. He has 11 rushing touchdowns, which is also nice. Equally impressive. But and he's had, let me see here, 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rushing touchdowns against Power 5 opponents. So wow. The way that he extends in the goal line and anything in the red zone, he's really, really successful. He isn't an accurate quarterback. They got him on a lot of short, inconsistent throws to kind of relieve him, but he can make some throws. And I think this is a game where he transferred a little late into the season. When they got him, and I think that this is, after the second bye, this is an opportunity for them to be more comfortable, right, and a little bit more in-season rhythm for the passing offense to maybe hit a few key plays. They just need to stun Oregon, and it'll be a bloodbath, because when you get there and you're down 14-7 or it's 10-7 because they blocked a field goal or a punt or they picked 6, your punt returned it, right? That's how they win these games, and I just think it's going to be one of those games. Like I said, I wouldn't bet on a win, but it's going to be weird, and I think a lot of Oregon fans aren't considering that. I'm not saying Iowa's a great football team. I'm not saying Oregon's miles better than them, but it just always feels, man, like they play a weird game once a year. And maybe that was Indiana, and they already blew their opportunity. But I think this is a real opportunity here.
Talking about transfers, KB, I just had a weird thought. If FCS playoff teams go deep, does that mess up those kids transferring? Like Gronowski, he's from South Dakota.
Yeah, he didn't transfer to the spring.
And there's no spring window anymore. So I'm curious if there's like a loophole there. Just random thought as you were talking.
I wonder if you can enter your name into the portal while still being at a
But your
university.
team's gonna know. I think this is a bad look.
They're gonna bench their starting quarterback.
I'm just thinking out loud here. I'm just trying to I'm trying to make sense of this whole
That's a
clusterfuck.
huge that's a huge call though. Quist is like, how does it impact FCS or
Even D2
yeah,
kids. I mean, Trinidad is from
yeah.
Ferris, and they won the Natty last year.
Dude, fun fact, I was going through my phone scrolling and deleting like really old pictures because my data was like at like near its end, right? It's like warning, warning, delete stuff. I had a screenshot of the Trinidad Chambliss transfer and I sent it. I don't remember who I sent it to, but I sent it. I had a screenshot of it on my phone when it happened
cool.
in April or whatever. I was like, national champion, All-American Trinidad Chambliss changes from Ferris State to Ole Miss.
D2 Heisman winner. Segue again. Look at us. Who cares? We do it live. Any other thoughts in college football or our teams as we go into the tail end of the season, KB?
Yeah, Haynes has officially been ruled out, it sounds like, so really impactful to Michigan, most likely for the end of the year if they somehow make the playoffs, if OSU fails to beat Michigan again, possibly. However, I like the way Michigan's at, but they're extremely injured. We have a bunch of injuries going on with our team right now, and I just hope that they can get healthy on the bye. I mean, there's some stuff to clean up, and hopefully we can get some non-shoulder pad time because Michigan really practices physical. I'd like a few practices where we just get the timing and rhythm down of the offense. Just let's get some comfortableness for Bryce. But other than that, just get healthy, man. Bye weeks are to get healthy, re-go over the fundamentals, and Michigan, has a huge opportunity here to finish the season in a really good place where the last game of the year matters, where the last game of the year you're hosting what will likely be the number one team in the country with an opportunity to punch your ticket to the playoff. And when we talked about expectations, this is exactly what I said, Chris. I was like, I just hope that we get to the last week of the season with an opportunity for the playoffs for the first year of Underwood. That's all I want. And it's happening exactly as I predicted, exactly as I had hoped. So we will see. But anything for you, Quist, on your team, what you want to see outside of your coach being fired, which is not likely the case with him moving forward through the bye. So that's at least to the end of the year. What are we thinking?
Yeah, I mean, in all reality, KB, we could win out, which I doubt it because that team doesn't have the juice. But Penn State, Iowa, and Maryland all beatable. I just knowing the team though, I don't think it happens. My optimism from the preseason is obviously dead and gone, buried 6 feet fucking behind me. So that's possible, but don't think it happens. I think you stay with Millie V, whatever you want to call him, Alessio. I think he looked good. I think he earned that.
I'm only referring to him as Alessio from
Alessio.
now on, just so
I think he earned it. He's a dog. The team has fight. You got to respect the players. It's just one of those years where the bounce or a call doesn't go your way and you're grinding. Like Jordan Hall, forever a good player that I like to watch. He's a dog. He's got heart. He's playing hurt. Marsh wants the ball. It's just not honestly, KB, the trenches are terrible, and that's where you win in football. You know this. That's what Michigan's MO has always been, is good trench play, and we just don't have that. I think our last good line was probably 2019, 2018. So we got to figure that out.
It just creates inconsistency, right? Like that's the problem. Is
Yeah,
it just
can't run.
You can't fall back. You can't fall back onto anything because you can't pass protect and you can't run.
Can't blitz.
Like you guys have had some huge gashes and you can't rush the quarterback, right? So it's very hard to win that way. And I thought the one thing we were going to get with Smith is you talked up the O-line coach and maybe it's just purely a talent issue and they got to get better guys in, but like. That's what I'm most disappointed about in his tenure for your team right now is like, you're like, dude, they got a great O-line coach. Like they have, some great D-line guys and all the D-line guys transfer away and are great everywhere else. And then the O-line guys that stayed are just horrible.
Terrible.
So it's like, they probably just weren't getting called. That's why they didn't leave. No one fucking wanted them, right?
Yeah. But yeah, we'll see what happens if we go 3-9, 4-8, he's probably fired the day after the Maryland game, even if they win that. I don't know how that's going to go. Maryland usually fizzles out towards the end of the year. But basketball gets a win. Hockey has a home series this weekend against Penn State. So just a good athletic team. The women's soccer team is doing really well in the Big Ten the Big Ten tournament. So, I mean, other things to look forward to. Obviously, football is kind of the pulse of, in the life, for me. But when your athletic program is good overall, people look to basketball. I'm not a big basketball guy, but always been a hockey guy. But the state's hockey team was down for a while, but now they've, been resurrected from the dead. They've been number one team. So I'm looking forward to watching the hockey team play Penn State. I'm going to the Michigan game in a couple weeks, which is always a good time. If you've never been to a college hockey game at MUN or even the GLI in Grand Rapids, it is really fun. Recommend anybody. Tickets are really expensive now, but I recommend college hockey to anybody. Even UKB at Arizona State could be a fun thing to go to. But I got nothing else, KB. It's nice to be on a bye week. I don't gotta. I literally was at the doctor with my kid on Saturday, and she's like, "What are you guys doing today?" I'm like, "I'm gonna watch my team lose to Minnesota." And guess what? It happened. So I'm looking forward to watching some winning basketball and hockey, and just watching some decent football and hanging out with friends and family this weekend. Pretty chill. But nothing for me, KB. Looking forward to seeing you hopefully in a couple days. Have a safe flight to the lovely state of Michigan, and hopefully I'll talk to you soon. And everybody else that's listening, it's always go green.
Thank you, Quist. I appreciate it. Yeah, safe travels, and I'm looking forward to the weather. Believe it or not, it hasn't been 50 here since like March, maybe. I miss some of the cold. I've gone up to the Flagstaff and some northern parts here, but it's just different. It's a little bit more dry compared to like the Michigan wet cold. And I know it sounds weird, but I'm looking towards it a little bit, and also the trees changing colors. I mean, we don't really even have trees barely hanging on alive out here.
Might miss peak. You just miss peak foliage.
Yeah, just miss peak. So the leaves are falling, but at least I'll see them on the ground. But all things considered, appreciate it. Continue to listen. Please tell your friends, family. We got end of season wrapping up here. We got playoffs. We got all these fun
Bowl
things.
mania, baby.
Yep, and at least one of our teams is at least somewhat competitive, so we have at least a good thing to talk about. Sorry, Quist, but I have to throw some shots. It's only fair.
I'm already dead.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't kick down a dead dog, right, or something like that. But thank you guys, as always, for listening, and go Blue.